The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
you're now about to witness the truth.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
This is special coverage of the mass shooting in Dallas, Texas on last night. A total of 12 officers were shot. Of those 12, 5 officers have been confirmed dead. A lot surrounding this story. The identity of the suspect that was killed by police officers overnight has been released. He has been identified as 25-year-old Micah X. Johnson, Micah Xavier Johnson. And here's a picture of him on the screen. If you saw any of the video from last night, you know not only the scale, the scope, the magnitude of it, but you realize just as soon as you saw this person in body armor in action that this guy had military training. And that has been confirmed. He is a U.S. Army veteran. And here he is. Another photo of him that was provided by the media. This is where they have referred to him as Micah X instead of Micah Xavier Johnson, of course, forwarding a particular narrative. Now, to be clear, in negotiations with the police officers last night, the police chief has confirmed that Micah, Mr. Johnson, whatever you want to call him, said that he wanted to kill white people, that he wanted to kill white police officers. He was upset about the killings of African-American men, and he was upset because of Black Lives Matter. They do have other people in custody who are who they're investigating, interrogating at this time. However, the police chief said that this gentleman insisted on the fact that he was not connected with any other groups and that he did this alone. These were the words that the police chief stated. Now, that's just the words of the killer, right? That could mean the exact opposite. It could mean that he is connected to some larger organization and that he did not act alone. However, it does put it into context, the scope. If this was perpetrated by one man, then there are a lot of conversations that we have to have. You know, we have to talk about a lot of things that people are not going to want to talk about today. But if one man was able to inflict this much damage on an entire department of police officers, and of course, this took place at the end of a protest, a Black Lives Matter protest. The protest was completely peaceful up until 9 o'clock when the shooting started. And this shooting took place between 9 o'clock all the way until early in the wee hours of the morning. He was not apprehended or cornered, rather, until after midnight. The last bit of footage that came in of when he killed the 5th officer, and I'll do my best to get the names of all the officers. I think they've only released the name of one officer who has been killed. Our condolences, our thoughts, and our you know, they are our servants, and they, you know, they have families that are going to grow up without their, we don't even know if they were all men who were killed. There could have been some, I don't know. We don't have a lot of details. There's a lot we do not know. But what we do know is that it's absolute carnage that took place last night, overnight in Dallas. And the ramifications, the implications will go long and go far. So the lines are open, 857-600-0518. Special coverage. I know it's a different time. You're not used to having, I'm not on until the nighttime, but this is just that significant and that important. So I want you to get a chance to chime in on the conversation. A few other details about this is the manner in which the Dallas Police Department eliminated the threat or terminated the suspect. The police chief stated that the police department deployed a robot that was armed with explosives. They detonated the explosives and killed the suspect. The police chief said that this was done because the suspect, even through negotiations, told him that he was intent on killing more police officers, that this was just beginning, and that the end is coming. Another confirmation that I had that this was a military individual, someone from the military, was his usage of the terms of IED, that they would find the IEDs. And because of that threat, the police chief said that they deployed a robot with explosives. They detonated the explosives, and there you have it. They killed Micah Xavier Johnson. All right. So you have to say something about this. I don't think that I have ever heard of the police force in the United States deploying explosives on a robot to kill a suspect. So this is unprecedented. This is unprecedented in a lot of ways. The number of police officers killed, more police officers were killed last night than since 9/11. And if you take it out of context of 9/11 and the Oklahoma City bombing, this is the deadliest day for police officers in the last 60 years. Now, we will talk about all of the implications, all the underlying conversations and debates. But one thing is for certain, that there are 5 officers who are dead. And also in the midst of this, we can't forget the 2 civilians. 2 civilians were also wounded in this carnage. So I want to play a couple of clips. The footage is a little difficult to watch and listen to, but I want you to get the idea of the scope and the scale of this. And the first clip I'm going to play is from the protest at the moment that the shooting started. So let's listen in. And this is really just the chaos of the crowd trying to get away, and the police officers coming and rushing onto the scene. You can't really hear any. Yeah, okay, so you don't hear any gunfire at this point. All right, let me stop that.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only.
All right, so that's the first clip. The second clip, you can actually hear the scale, and you can see in this clip, you can see the officer, you can see the Army vet in his fatigues, in his khaki pants. It's very blurry, but you can see the skill and the precision with which he moved. Once I saw this last night, I knew right away that this guy was ex-military, or at a bare minimum, he was paramilitary. But it has come out that Micah Xavier Johnson is a U.S. Army veteran. So watch this next clip. It's a little difficult. It's a little fuzzy, but I want to make sure that you get a chance to see it as well. The suspect pulled up in this black SUV, and there he is behind the pillar on the right, shooting. And at this point, he's dropping clips, magazine rounds. Okay, so that's another clip. Now there's a third clip that I won't show because it actually does show a police officer being killed. But you can see Micah Xavier. This is allegedly, at this point, the person we're seeing is believed to be Micah Xavier Johnson. You can see that he is maneuvering. He is maneuvering tactically, like with precision, and he sneaks up behind a police officer so quickly, so fast, and executes the police officer, assassinates the police officer from behind, point blank range. So I won't show that, but I only mentioned it because this guy was well prepared. Now, it's difficult to believe that this was done by less than 3 people because of the magnitude, because of the belief that shots were coming from everywhere. Most people believe that this was at least 3 people. In fact, there are still 3 people who are in custody, who are under investigation right now, seeing if they had anything to do with this. They are not satisfied. The police chief stated that he is not satisfied with the investigation as of yet. They're going to exhaust all leads, but But as you saw video come out of it last night, you thought that you realized this had to be more than one person. Here's the last bit of footage, and I believe you can hear the gun, the exchange.
Holy shit. Holy shit.
Okay. So again, you hear this guy was armed to the teeth. I mean, it was believed that this was sniper fire. The first 4 officers who were down were all down in rapid succession. So if there was any sniper fire, it was extremely precise. But all of that at this point is speculation because it's starting to sound like it was only one person. That's the type of language that it's gearing towards. Last night, overnight, everyone believed that it had to be a coordinated attack where people were triangulating their positions, where snipers were laying down cover fire from above, and someone was on the ground doing the close up killing. And this was the general conversation last night. But when you woke this morning, you found out that it seems more and more likely that this could have been done by one individual. That's not confirmed. Again, that's all speculation, but there's only one suspect who is confirmed to have been involved, who is now dead, and that is 25-year-old Micah Xavier Johnson, a former he's a U.S. Army veteran. All right, so let's talk about some of the underlying issues here. And some of the I don't know. First, let me start by someone said, well, Ben, you didn't take the time to give condolences. Sure, I'll offer my condolences, obviously. But the truth of the matter is there's so much happening in rapid succession in America that it's hard to even keep pace. I don't believe I offered any condolences to Alton Sterling's family, the people of Baton Rouge, nor Philando Castile out of Minnesota. And you're able to look at these videos and feel nothing. So, that just speaks to how much insanity is happening in America. It is too much. It's absolutely too much. And human life is human life, right? This game this game of all lives matter versus Black Lives Matter, it is a human life. It is a human life that was lost in Baton Rouge, a human who was lost in Minnesota, and 5 who were lost in Dallas. But yet immediately, before they knew anything about this, people wanted to spin this to be Black Lives Matter attacking the police, as though the protesters turned on the police. This is something that came from people with extremely large platforms who were very irresponsible last night, making this seem as though this was Black Lives Matter protest turning on police. No, what this was an ex-U.S. Army veteran, who was angry, had enough training and enough weapons to hold off police for almost 3 hours to wound 12, killing 5 of those 12. This is so much bigger than what people want to break it down to be just to fit their particular narrative. And that's the problem I have with this, because they want more than anything else. Whoever that you can fill in the blanks for right? You know exactly who they are. Some of them, you can categorize them as conservatives. You can categorize them as the Blue Lives Matter crowd, the All Lives Matter crowd, the people who are doing everything they can to undermine the message of Black Lives Matter. They want to silence Black Lives Matter. They want to silence it so bad that they don't even give a chance to recognize the humanity of the 2 other people who were killed this week. As though now that police officers have been killed, somehow or another, we should completely forget about the 2 gentlemen who were killed by police officers. If all lives genuinely matter to them, then we should be upset about all of this. We should be upset about every bit of this, every step of the way, and not leverage and use these police officers as props against the Black community. That's exactly what they want to do. and I can name the names, but there's so many of them, we'll be naming them all day. But people who want to silence Black Lives Matter, they are leveraging and using these dead officers, these slain officers, as props against the Black Lives Matter and the Black community. When in reality, we should be upset across the board. And I think the problem is that I think very few people are genuinely upset and hurt by what we see. The thought of it, we register it. Damn, this is bad. These people are dead, right? The people who are there on the scene, they experience the trauma, so they're separate, right? They are there and they're part of the trauma, and they're genuinely traumatized and terrified, right? The families are broken and hurting. But those of us who are just observers on a national level, viewing through social media, I think we have become desensitized to it. And we are quick to use people as props and as props against a narrative that we disagree with. And last night, countless, and I'm going to start calling them Klan Twitter or Jim Crow Twitter, just because the very first thing they wanted to do was crucify. And I wish I brought the tweets. I didn't bring the tweets with me, but there was a former U.S. Congressman, I think Joe Walsh, or I know his last name is Walsh. But he tweeted out one of the most repugnant tweets, threatening tweets, not only against Black Lives Matter and the Black community, but also against President Obama. So bad that he had to delete it. Tommy Lauren from the Blaze, the woman with the show, the YouTube show, tweeted out making an equivalency between Black Lives Matter and the KKK. Both of them having to subsequently delete those tweets and then try to come back and cover their asses later on. But that shows you their initial gut reaction is to try to use these slain officers, people whose sons and daughters are going to grow up without their parents. They're using them as props against the Black community. When if all lives really matter to them, then they would simply mourn these people as well as mourning all of the other tragic losses that we've had this week. I mean, nobody's even talking about Dylan Noble and his execution. So we can simultaneously, why do we even have to say this? We can simultaneously say that this is horrific, this is tragic, this is unacceptable in our society, and still mourn for the police officers as well as for the Black men and women and the young white man who was killed this week by police officers. 857-600-0518. Here are a couple of other things. The police department, if this was one person, which I can't imagine that it was, just because of the scale and the scope and the time, the length of time that they were able to fend off the police. If this was even two people, then we have to have a conversation about the ease with which people can get access to guns that can inflict this kind of damage, even against our good guys with guns. Like, we had an entire department of good guys with guns confronting maybe one or two bad guys with guns, and the end result was pure carnage. And I only mention that because that's the real crux of the matter, right? While people are trying to make this be about Black Lives Matter and, this is the fault of Black people complaining about getting killed by white officers or officers in general, Black or white or Hispanic or whatever, right? They're trying to make this scenario in Dallas be because Black people are complaining about getting killed by police. But they would never take a second to consider that this is about a deranged man who was able to get his hands on a gun and inflict this much damage. Because when we have as much freedom, God bless America, right? We got freedoms, right? You bless your Second Amendment, right? When we have this much access and the ability to get weapons that cause this kind and inflict this kind of damage, even on not just children anymore, right? Not just helpless and innocent children, not just a club of partygoers and people just enjoying their life, but officers armed with their weapons drawn trying to defend themselves and citizens against a bad guy with a gun and body armor. I mean, at what point will we have that conversation? We won't. We never will. We never will, because they need to make this be about a conviction of a condemnation of all things black and Black Lives Matter. And if you dare, and then they're also using this to be about, anyone who speaks out about injustice. And speaking out about injustice is equivalent to using hate speech against the police. I want to say that again. They are trying to make draw an equivalency between people who speak out against justice and make that equal to hate speech against police officers. In other words, if you say anything about the police, then you are using hate speech against the police. This is the logic that was spewed across the radio and television waves all night last night, all morning this morning. Ben Johnson or Ben Fields, whatever his name is, on CNN, the commentators on CNN quite literally are saying that because of the rhetoric. What rhetoric? Tell me, what precise rhetoric do you think caused this? The fact that we're saying don't shoot, the fact that we're saying stop killing us, the fact that we're saying don't execute us, the fact that we're saying this man was reaching for his registration and it was killed. He declared, Philando Castile, he declared to the police officers that he had a weapon and he had it registered, licensed to carry, and he was still killed. The fact that we're saying that is wrong is equivalent to hate speech. That is totalitarianism and authoritarianism 101. And somebody needs to call them on that. Stop using these dead police officers as props against black people and props against the citizens, because ultimately, even though it starts in the black community, they are trying to silence any dissent against their dictatorial control over national narratives and over policing. They ultimately want our silence. So they're going to ask these questions. This is what the weekend is going to be about. Do you condemn this type of violence? Who doesn't? Absolutely. Absolutely. 100% unequivocally. This guy, there is a huge question on the method in which the Dallas PD, used explosives on a robot, the legality of it. You know, I've never heard of that. So the jury is clearly out on the method in which they eliminated the threat. But did he need to be eliminated? Absolutely. Do we condemn it? Absolutely. No shit, Sherlock. Anybody who doesn't is a buffoon. That's the first thing they're going to ask you. Are you going to condemn? The second question, are you going to condemn Black Lives Matter? Are you going to condemn Blue Lives Matter? Are you going to condemn All Lives Matter? Are you going to condemn all of these narratives that are set up intentionally to be some type of retribution against Black Lives Matter? Are you going to condemn these radio hosts and these television hosts who are using express language of war against the president of the United States and language of war against black people? Are you going to condemn them? Are you making people who are saying, don't kill us, we just want to live, we want to live in peace, don't shoot, are you equating that to being somehow responsible for or the cause for this man going out and killing? Because if that's what you're doing, then every idle word of every white commentator, radio host, from Bill O'Reilly to Rush Limbaugh to little people like Tommy Lauren, they are responsible for every incident of racial killing. They are responsible for Dylan Roof. They are responsible for Alton Sterling, and they are responsible. So if we're going to draw false equivalencies, let's go the whole distance and draw some damn false equivalencies. So no, I do not condemn Black Lives Matter. I am Black Lives Matter, and Black Lives Matter will continue. The protests must continue. They will continue. And if you're really concerned about the safety of American citizens, then you better damn well be ready to have a conversation about the kind of guns madmen can get access to. And you can no longer use the narrative of good guys with a gun are the only people who can stop bad guys with a gun. Because last night, an entire department of good guys with guns took almost 4 or 5 hours to take out one bad guy with a gun because of the type of gun he could get access to. So if you're ready to talk about that, then we can have a conversation. Otherwise, you're simply using these slain officers as props against black people, against citizens, against people who would dare speak out against the overreach of police officers. All right. I'm going to do about 5 more minutes and then I have to get out of here. I just want to make sure that we cover all of that. The other thing, the media. The media is covering, this is the picture that's in many outlets are being displayed of Micah Xavier Johnson. His name is Micah Xavier Johnson. This is the picture, even though we know for sure that he is a U.S. Army veteran, and we could tell by his training, we could tell by how he carried himself last night. We could tell that he was a U.S. Army veteran. But the image that is being used of him is this image where he's doing a Black Power salute, where he is in some traditional African garb, and they are referring to him as Micah X. Micah X. Almost akin to simple, equating it to Malcolm X. And this is an intentional narrative because this is going to drive clicks. This is going to drive viewership. This is going to make their ratings go out the roof. And because of that, they are furthering the divide in the community because his name is Micah Xavier Johnson. And he is a U.S. Army veteran who is clearly deranged, clearly never should have been able to get his hands on a gun, but was able to get his hands on a gun powerful enough to hold off an entire department of police officers. The last thing I'm going to say about this, and I'm going to take this caller here, is this is terrifying. If you think about our military being this professional and this skillful and being able to carry out with this much precision, one man, even if it comes out that there's more, I'm talking about what this guy did on the ground level against those police officers for 3 hours. It's terrifying to think what would happen if we had other military personnel, ex-military, who are deranged, upset, angry, suffering from whatever mental PTSD, homeless, and then able to get access to military-style weapons and take that anger out on America. I love, God bless America. Love our troops, because you can't say you can't say anything ever bad about our troops. I got it. Understood. But it should be terrifying. Our military should be the number one people that we take care of in this country because we train them to be killers, and then we throw them back into an American society that pillages and plunders their life. And we wonder how stuff like this happens. All right, let me take this caller. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, Ben, what's going on?
Hey, Bryce, how's it going, man? What's on your mind?
Why isn't Joe Walsh being arrested?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like I saw that, and I said, what the hell? And then it's just the whole right wing, and then this Kevin Jackson black dude that's what we call a coon is out there, blaming Obama, Black Lives Matter, and it's like y'all want to see shit get real. Mm-hmm. Now, and obviously, what took place last night was wrong, and condolences, and obviously the guy is deranged and upset, and maybe I can't lie, maybe it does have to do with what's going on with the police.
Well, no, I mean, there's no doubt. Listen, he said that expressly. I want to be sure the killer, the suspect has already said clearly that he was upset about Black Lives Matter. He was upset about the killings. He was upset and he wanted to kill police officers, and he wanted to kill white police officers. So there's no doubt that there's a connection to it. But is it the direct cause? Like, is this something that you can turn around and say, oh, this entire movement is so poisonous that it fostered and created? No, the Black Lives Matter didn't create Micah Johnson. The military created Michael. That skill set was created by the military. The execution with that weaponry was created by the NRA. The anger and the rage that he felt was fostered by American society in general, point blank, period. And the shootings of Alton Sterling and Philando Castile was merely an excuse for him to go out and do something that this cat has been thinking about doing for a while. Because you don't carry out something that precise and with that precision.
It was this white guy that did it in Dallas last year.
Mm-hmm. Just like a year ago.
White guy that did it last year.
Yep.
A year ago. Because I saw the pictures of the protesters, the cops with the police were taking pictures with the protesters, giving them water, talking to them, and having a conversation with the protesters like, we understand it, I know we got to fix this, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
But now the narrative is going to be flipped. And then, it's just like I talked about last night, the system. If you want this, if you understand about the range and everything like that, but then if you want things to really, really change and not have a guy do that, even to use what's been going on, well, change the system and get the police together, because it's not going to stop if we continue to get killed like this. And then
you know what? And I want to make it a little bit more than that. Hey, man, appreciate the call, man. I got the lines are lighting up now. I also want to say that this will continue to happen, not just because the police continue to kill people per se. This will continue to happen as long as madmen are able to get their hands on weapons to do and inflict this type of damage. We cannot. Listen, from a white racist like Dylan Roof, who actually I think he just used a handgun, right? But from a white racist to a black racist to an Islamic militant, right? Someone who's been radicalized, to just your white boy in the basement who's mad because he can't get none, right? To your black guy in the basement who's mad that he can't get some, to anyone who is just deranged. If you think about the number of people in America who are mentally deranged and sick and violent, and then you think about the number of weapons we give them access to, this isn't not going to stop because police officers are still killing black people. No, this isn't not going to stop because, or let me just say it straightforward, this is going to continue because we continue to give a mentally unstable American society as a whole access to weapons that can hold off and fend off an entire department of police. No way in the world 5 officers would be dead if all he had was a handgun. No way in the world he could have held them off for 4 hours. That doesn't mean he wouldn't have killed somebody. That doesn't mean that he would not have escaped, right? A lot of things would have been similar, but you know what would not have been similar? The number of people he was able to kill in that time. Not to mention the body armor. Not to mention the fact that he's ex-military, he has this training, and There's a lot of people in our society that has similar training, that have similar issues, that have similar. Listen, you can lay this at the feet of black anger, but how many white angry racists are out there with this type of anger, with this type of training, with access to these types of weapons? I don't think it's going to continue, Bryce, because police are going to continue killing people. Right? I think it's going to continue because we have a sick society that is able to get their hands on weapons that can cause this type of carnage. The solution is not for black people to stop complaining and protesting against police violence. That's what they want. They're using these dead police officers merely as props. That's the first thing, against the black community. They're using these dead officers as props, political props against President Obama. On CNN, they were talking about, even the mayor of Dallas was talking about how we need to have real leadership. And then on CNN, they were like, we need real leadership that's going to come out here and say X, Y, and Z. And I have to give it to the CNN anchors because, and Bakari Sellers, he was on, he said, wait a minute, President Obama did say exactly the exact words that came out of their mouth. President Obama said X, Y, and Z. You want X, Y, and Z? President Obama said X, Y, and Z. That wasn't enough because they want this to be a political football. You talk about the politicization of a tragedy. They have politicized this so quickly that the families, quite right should be pissed off at every person who is trying to score cheap political points on the backs of these dead officers. Shame on all of you. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, Ben, it's PJ calling again.
Hey, PJ, how's it
I'll
going,
try
man?
to make this quick because I know you said you were going to go soon. All right. First, let me say this right off the bat. No one deserved what happened.
Not at all.
I don't believe in blood sacrifices. As much as I hate what the police as a whole have done to Americans, this was not necessary by
Absolutely.
any stretch, and I wish it wouldn't have happened. However, if we're going to talk narratives here, these two narratives cannot coincide. They cannot coexist. You can't keep treating poor people, especially in the urban cities or in the inner cities, as an other. Like, I'm talking about the police department. I'm talking about the media at large, saying, how can poor people be poor if they have fridges and microwaves?
Right.
But they're taking our government money, which the police, have to protect, even though they're all thieves and X, Y, and Z. At the same time, the narrative behind owning a gun is, well, in case the government practices tyranny. Look at Jane Helm 15 and all that crap.
Mm-hmm.
You can't tell the American public, A, that a certain type of people deserve to be belittled and made second or third class citizens, while at the same time saying guns are for people who think that the government are being tyrannical towards them or are oppressing them or holding them down. Because what's going to happen? A bunch of angry poor people are going to get guns with ease because they don't need ID, they don't need background checks because it's our American freedoms. And then, what happens? When cops keep killing these people, then people are going to lash back. Again, nothing is deserved, but what the hell do you expect when these two narratives clash? If you're going to give everyone guns and you're going to keep feeding them the anger of being killed by the government, which is what apparently guns are for, then what do you think is going to happen?
Yep. I mean, if anybody believed in that narrative, it would be someone who has spent time in the military, right? Someone who's been trained to defend the Constitution, right? Someone who's been these trained killers, all right, and know how to use these weapons. So I agree with you, like 100%. You cannot simultaneously, because here's the thing: they don't believe that they're talking to marginalized groups. Right? Rush Limbaugh, per se, when he says your Second Amendment rights are the government is trying to take over, they don't think that the government is trying to be tyrannical towards marginalized groups. They think the government is trying to be tyrannical towards white Christian men on behalf of the tyrannical group of the marginalized groups. So they expressly mean, when they mean you need to get your Second Amendment rights and defend yourself, they are expressly talking to white Christian men and some white Christian women. They are never talking to black people and marginalized groups, minorities. The reason I know this is because Mark Hughes, the gentleman last night, and you can see him in one of my videos, I'll play it again. The gentleman last night who was in the army fatigue t-shirt and short pants, open carry protesting in Texas, which is legal. He instantly became the subject of a nationwide, almost international search. Obviously, they knew he was in Texas, but it spread that quickly because here is a black man with a gun. Oh my God, what is he like? People they were literally saying, what is he doing with a gun? Well, people, he's expressing his Second Amendment rights that you cherish so dearly. Exactly. But apparently it can't be for him because now he's instantly a subject. He's instantly a suspect.
Yep.
So I hear what you're saying, but I'm just letting you know that they're clearly not talking to the marginalized groups because they don't think the government can ever be oppressive towards marginalized groups. They feel the government can only be oppressive towards white Christian men on behalf of marginalized groups because the white Christian men, they're the victims here, right? Ultimately, they are the victims and everyone else, no matter whatever happens to you, no matter what the government does to you, you're never the victim. The real victims are the discomfort that white Christian men who make about $80,000, $90,000 a year, the discomfort they feel with having to make space in America for other ideologies, other races, other ethnicities, or the orientations, because we all know the most terrorized and marginalized group in America are white Christian men.
No kidding.
Hey, man.
All right,
sorry, I didn't mean to yell in your ear.
Me ramble.
Yeah,
no, you're good, man. Thank you. We all need it.
857-600-0518. And ultimately, man, we got some complex things. We have complex things to talk about and deal with in America. There are 5 officers who are dead, 5 families who are broken, who will be hurting for the rest of their lives. scarred and damaged. But then we also have black communities that are, and white communities like Dylan Noble, man. You know, we have people who have lost their sons and their daughters at the hands of the same police. And so to try to make this an absolutist position from any perspective is completely and patently wrong. You cannot exonerate every single police officer because of the tragedy last night. And likewise, I'm not going to exonerate every single black person, because if there is a black person that you know who is cheering this on, tell them to kiss. They are not just the problem, just as much of the problem. They're more of a problem. They are undermining our own cause. So I would never use this as a means of exonerating an entire class of people or condemning an entire class of people. But I also will not sit back and allow you to say Black Lives Matter and people protesting against injustices and from our people who are deputized to protect and serve, that they now need to be silent because of the actions of a U.S. Army veteran trained to execute and assassinate with precision for whatever his motivation was. All right, folks. Let me just check the chat room, see what you guys are saying. And then I'm going to get out of here. I have time for one more call, and then I'm getting out of here. PJ, yeah, if things were this bad and Obama, President, yeah. You know, somebody said, imagine if Trump was president. I'm telling you. Okay, seeing some reports that there's still some confusion over who the identity of the shooter is. So the name, now let me say this. This is a very fast-paced moving story. But the name Micah X Johnson and the picture that was confirmed by the Dallas Police Department. So if there's any change, if you're watching this after 12 o'clock on a Friday and there's some significant change to who the identity of the shooter is, it is only because we are reporting based on the Dallas Police Department. Even though last night the Dallas Police Department did screw it up with Mr. Hughes, Mark Hughes, we're going to go with the information that we have. All right. Here's a decent question. I wonder if we will create our own ISIS. They stem from their families being blown up. We are killing people's families here now. What happens from that? You know, we already have our own ISIS, and it's just anger. It's people who are angry, and whether or not you feel like their anger is justified is totally irrelevant. Whether or not you think they have a reason to be angry is completely irrelevant. Now, the question is, are we going to allow a population of angry people get access to weapons that can cause this much damage, even against an entire police force? But they're not going to allow this to be a nuanced conversation. They're going to make this about, oh, Black Lives Matter is anti-police, so therefore Black Lives Matter should be quiet. And I'm going to tell you, no, that will not happen. That cannot happen, because I am Black Lives Matter. You are Black Lives Matter. Your neighbor is Black Lives Matter. Every person that has ever identified or been a marginalized group is Black Lives Matter. We're not just fighting on behalf of black people. We're fighting on behalf of every marginalized group. We're fighting on behalf of Hispanics, of Asians. We're fighting on behalf of women. We're fighting on behalf of the LGBTQ community. We're fighting on behalf of every group that has legitimately, and I take the word legitimately out, that has been marginalized by America. Therefore, Black Lives Matter, newsflash, will not go anywhere. If nothing else, matter of fact, right now is more important than ever to say and remind America that Black Lives Matter. You know why? Because black people just instantly became the target. Black people have become targets of angry white, most likely men, and the women who are pushing them on, right? So now more than ever, we need to say Black Lives Matter. Because underneath the banner of Black Lives Matter is every marginalized group in America. And because I know for a fact that Black Lives Matter fights on behalf of every marginalized group, I know for a fact that Black Lives Matter would even get out there and protest against people who would want to harm police officers. So instead of using police officers as props against black people, see how many of us would actually stand in solidarity for the lives of police officers. But you don't want that. You want a political prop. You want a political football. And you know what? We're smarter than that. And the jig is up. Guys, I've got to go. My lunch break is over.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. It's Ben Dixon! If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/the BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.